When we create a moment of decision, it's not going to work for me, but that's okay. When we create a moment of decision, this creates the opportunity for what we call a moment of enlightenment. A moment of enlightenment is a moment where we see and perceive that there is light, where we perceive there was none. So what happens is we create these moments of decisions throughout our entire life. And the best example of this is got to do the thing. Do you have my phone, Jackie? Can I have it for a second? I've got to do a dramatic demonstration. So I'm sitting there at the kitchen table in my home. It's the 11th of April, 2011. And I'm there, scrolling Instagram, doing my thing. It's about, 5:20. It's probably about 5:40 in the afternoon. And I'm scrolling through, doing my thing. And the home phone rings. The home phone rings. And I look over. I didn't even look over. I didn't even look up. I was still looking down at my phone. And the phone rings. My dad answers it. I'm still just scrolling through my phone, but he puts the phone down and he says 2 words to me. And he says 2 words that changed my life. He said, put the phone down and he goes, "She's gone." And all of the months of hospital visits had come to a head. Put my phone down and we both ran to the car. And got in the car and we drove to the hospital. And we got to the hospital and we saw my mum just laying there. It was all of the family that was there crowding around, and we're all saying our final goodbyes to her kind of physical body there. And she'd taken a final breath, like you could still feel that she was warm. Whereas when we saw her at the funeral parlour, you could feel that her soul had left her body and that she was cold. And she passed away that day, and I got those 2 words, "She's gone." And that just ran through my head. And what happened from that was, about a month or 2 later, I was sitting in my room in Bowen Hills crying, just running that through my head. "She's gone. She's gone. She's gone." And when I was sitting in my room running out through my head, I created a moment of decision. I didn't realize it at the time what I'd done. I decided I was never going to let that happen again. In that moment of decision, of going through that experience, I created that decision to never let that happen again. Never get so connected to someone in my life to have them leave. So I closed my heart. Closed my heart in that moment. And when I closed my heart, I created that strategy of never letting that happen again. And what that then created, can you imagine what that creates when you create a decision like that you're not going to open your heart ever again? Well, it's a funny thing, because if you fast forward, probably the first time was about 4 years later, in a nice, loving relationship. And because I was still closed in my heart and I would never let that happen again, it was coming up in my physical experience of having that reflected back to me. Meaning, my partner had cancer and her heart would stop most nights and she would collapse on the floor. I would pick her up most nights to get her heart to start again. Fast forward, I don't know, 2 or 3 years later, 2017, I'm in a new relationship that didn't work out. New relationship. This time, this person also has a heart condition. Olympic level swimmer, but then can no longer swim. Well, she can swim, but someone has to watch because her heart literally just stops as well. Like, I'd go to the Sleeman Sports Complex where they do a lot of the Olympic training and stuff, and she'd be swimming, and I'd have to watch her swim, do her laps. Because if her heart stops, then she's basically going to drown. Common theme, right? I close my heart and create my entire reality from that place. Meaning all that I see, all that I experience, all that the projection that I then create is closed heart. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd created my entire reality around that by making that moment of decision. And it took me over a decade to realize that I'd created that. And you're probably recognizing that you've probably created some of these too, right? How many of you can recognize that you've probably created some of these, whether you're aware of the specifics or not? I realized that I'd created that. Now, in every moment of decision that you've created is the possibility of a moment of enlightenment. A moment where you see the light where you perceive that there was none. It's a predictable process. People go like this. And they crack their heart open in love. It's a physiological response when we take people through this. I was watching Navdeep do it last week. It's predictable. People fall forward and they crack back because their heart cracks open to be able to create that seeing of that light where they perceive that there was none. It's this experience of seeing. It's really this seeing of this light, love, and truth where they perceive that there was none. And in most instances, it's seeing where you thought it was never there. Meaning the person that you hated the most, there's a specific reason why they had to be that way for you. And when you could recognize that they couldn't be any other way, and some of you will recognize that statement, they've been through this process, then you no longer give your energy away to it.